Why is it that I always realize that I need to muck with the microphone right before I start streaming? Like, I know that it's because I'm making sure that the microphone is in the right place, but it's very silly because y'all probably are not super interested in me doing this for like 5 minutes while the audio goes whoa, 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 whoa. It is what it is. This is life with too many things to do. This room is a mess because up until yesterday I thought I was going to Origins until I looked at the numbers again and had a chat with Meg and went, no, instead I will not. So I apologize for the mess that is this room. But it's not going to get any less messy during the stream because I'm just going to hang out and chat with all of you. So today is the day that this command becomes especially relevant. Are you not? Does this? Okay. It's like, I know that command is real. This book is real. It's right here. It exists. See? Ta-da! Doop. It's got book stuff in it and everything. I'm very excited. Yeah, I just got my intuition was telling me this will be bad because I will spend too much time, at least in the first few days of the convention, being really stressed about having to be safe. And by the time I would get into the rhythm of how to do a convention and be safe, I would have spent a lot of the convention being stressed and anxious about it. And I decided that that was going to just be a bad time for me. But yes, book. This book, it's back. It was time, the release date today was time to be right before Origins so that I could have the paperback in time for Origins. And so there's 2 large boxes of copies of Geekomancy downstairs that I ordered that arrived well advance of the con so that I could bring them to the con. But instead they are here. And I'm going to hope to go to Gen Con maybe, and then talk to local booksellers and see if they want to stock these new editions for their readers. So that is all very cool. Thank you for coming by, Mighty Mur. People who are watching should follow Mighty Mur for I Should Be Writing and Ditch Diggers and video game streams that Mur does. I don't think I have the shoutout command installed. Is that right? Let's find out. Is it built into Nightbot? It does not look like. Although the last command took a while, so maybe Nightbot is just sleepy today, which understandable. So yeah, this is, I debated whether I wanted to be playing something while chatting with people, and I don't know, maybe we still will, and I'll move everything around and play a thing while chatting with people. It depends on whatever balance we have of people who are talking in chat and people who are not. All versions of being here are lovely, and I'm grateful for everyone. But if it's mostly me talking, then I may also put on a game, just so that there is more for y'all to enjoy, and if someone kind of randomly comes by, there's something else to catch their attention. So this is, it's something that I found really interesting is the subtle differences between Kindle/Amazon printers and Ingram Spark printers. So the 2 self-publishing printing services that I use are KDP, which is Amazon, because Amazon, the paperback is now just another part of KDP for Amazon. And so the Amazon one is this one that I showed earlier. So it's a little bit slimmer. Wait, no, other way around. Strike that, reverse it. This is the Ingram Spark version. So it is pretty skinny. This is the Kindle version because it has this not for resale proof thing on the front, and the the matte cover is the texture is just a tiny bit different, I think, between the two of them. But this one is a little thicker. If we put these two beside next to each other, and I hold it up, you can see that the not for resale version is just a little bit thicker, even though they are the same page count, 338. 338. So I think there's just the paper stock on the Kindle version is just a little bit thicker, it seems. And so when you make the cover wrap PDF file that goes to the printer, they have to be different between these two formats. And so most of the time, or the Deranged Doctor Design, which is the design company that I did these lovely new covers with, says, okay, well, we're going to give you the Kindle kind of cover wrap version, and then you're going to need to download the template for the Ingram Spark cover thing, and that is different. It's separate and it's extra because the two of them do not agree on the very precise bits of formatting. Because if I gave Amazon, or if I gave Amazon the cover layout for this, then if there were like precise bits on the spine, those would be off. And there's some self-publishing book that I noticed where it didn't quite line up, because even when you get your print wrap layout correct, there is just there's a margin of error that the printers say. They're like, hey, there's a margin of error here, understand that. And sometimes that results in something from the front cover actually ending up on the spine, and just a tiny little bit of wraparound, which you might see on books here and there. So that is amusing. You'll note that these are in the cream color of pages, because back in the day when I made the Geekomancy, when I made the Genrenauts self-pub editions, these are white pages, and I found that I actually prefer cream a little bit more. It just looks a little bit more like the other books that I tend to have. I could probably switch that on Genrenauts. I have not gone in and really looked at all of the printer settings for Genrenauts, the season 1 collection, in a while, so I'm not actually sure how it works. Something that I wanted to talk about is how much has changed in self-publishing since I did that Genrenauts Kickstarter and those editions. When I did Genrenauts, I wanted to learn all of the different self-publishing retailer sites. I wanted to learn KDP, I wanted to learn Barnes & Noble Press, I wanted to learn Kobo Writing Life. I did not want to learn Apple, because to self-publish on Apple at that time, you had to have a device running iOS. And I did not have, or I had like an iPad, but maybe I didn't even have the iPad then. So instead I used Drafted Digital for Apple, and like a couple of other things, because Drafted Digital is good at distributing to a variety of smaller retailers that have useful reach into different markets elsewhere, like other places in the world than North America. Since then, I have realized that you get a lot of extra control and tweakability if you publish with every single individual vendor, but it also means that you have 5 or so vendors to check your sales on. You have 5 vendors to get sales reports from, to get tax reports from at the end of the year. You have to upload everything several more times. Every retailer self-publishing platform has slightly different requirements for everything, and that becomes a lot. So for the Ree Reyes reissues, I decided I was just going to do KDP, Drafted Digital, and then for my wide distribution print to go to like bookstores and libraries, I would do Ingram Spark. So that's 3 platforms to work on, instead of here's what I did for Genre Nuts. So Kickstarter definitely counts because I did a whole, a month-long thing there. But if we don't count Kickstarter, KDP, Ingram Spark, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Draft to Digital. And that's not even including Gumroad, which I definitely did bring things onto. Hello, the kids are asleep. It's party time. Woo! The party is... book exists. Yay! It's a book. I'm very excited. I think my excitement will multiply geometrically when I get physical copies of at least one more book, and there's like two or more Ree Reyes books in physical edition next to each other. That idea that like I can have stuff on a shelf and hear that series that meant so much to me now has a physical incarnation, because the first time around, the Ree Reyes books did not have a paperback edition. They did not have hardcover, no physical edition whatsoever. When I sold the books to Simon & Schuster, the deal was with Pocket Star, which was a digital first imprint under Gallery. And I think there's been some rearranging of like where Gallery is, but it is neither here nor there. And they bought ebook and print rights for the book, for Geekomancy and a sequel, which became Celebromancy. And they said, okay, here's this advance, and then you'll get an extra chunk of advance if we issue a print edition. But this was 2012 when traditional publishers were experimenting with digital first lines, and when kind of self-publishing was beginning to start eating traditional publishing's lunch in a few categories. Guess what? One of those categories was urban fantasy. So especially in the last few years, but even in like 2012 to 2015, it felt like the air was going out of the room a little bit for urban fantasy in traditional for new authors. Maybe that's just more specific to my own experience, where the series is kind of, it has a gimmick. If you're not into fandom is a magic system as a bit, the series is probably not for you. Like it's doing its own thing. I'm drawing on Dresden Files and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and things like that, but it is very much its own thing. My editor for that series, Adam Wilson, who is not at Simon & Schuster anymore, part of why he really liked the books and Geekomancy and wanted to publish it is because it was something different for him, and that he felt that it was like very much its own thing and fostered the series being its own thing. And I'm very happy that it is that, and it gave me a lot of latitude to be wild and inventive. And I think, like, looking back on this series compared to like Annihilation Aria and the things that I'm working on right now, there is a joyful, youthful abandon and like wild inventiveness in the Geekomancy books, because I did not care about like what was proper or how books are supposed to be. I wrote that book. I kept writing it because it was fun and it let me kind of bring my passion for science fiction fantasy stuff to writing. And then it just turned out that there was an editor that was very excited about it too. And then we found a bunch of readers, because Geekomancy is still my best-selling book. Part of that is because it's the oldest, but certainly not all of it. I've had other books since then that have come out with big publishers and had some support. I have a book with 47 North, which is an Amazon imprint, and Amazon has all the promotional power in the world on their own platform, at least. But Geekomancy definitely found an audience, and it's the thing that I hear from people, probably the thing I hear from people the most about in terms of like fan mail and emails like that. Thank you so much, the kids are asleep. I also think it's good and fun. I struggled a little bit with deciding whether to should I actually re-edit these books? Should I go, okay, first edition of Geekomancy, give it a really thorough read, and then go, all right, if I were doing an author's preferred edition, here's what I'd do. I thought about that, but I ultimately decided that I did not want to do that, and I will get back to it why in just a second, because The Kids Are Asleep said, Geekomancy was the first book of yours I read. That is very fun. Yeah, it was fun to be not that far behind Ready Player One when Ready Player One came out, because Ready Player One hit bookstore shelves, I think, in 2011. I had already started writing Geekomancy when Ready Player One came out, which, this is very funny. I search Ready Player One on Amazon. I get the movie, and then I get 2 editions of Ready Player Two and Snow Crash in the similar books section, and then I get Ready Player One, the movie again, a Adam Sandler movie somehow for some reason, also sponsored, and then the audiobook edition of Ready Player One, which, like, understandable because that's narrated by Will Wheaton, right? And he's a great narrator. So let's see, the audio version at least was 2011. Let's double check this. Kindle. I'm just making sure that my memory isn't wrong. So yeah, August of 2011. So Ready Player One came out just over 13 months before Geekomancy. So I literally could not have written Geekomancy fast enough. Well, someone could have written the book fast enough to get it out when they got it out, because Simon & Schuster put it out very quickly. But I started writing Geekomancy in November of 2010. And the reason why, I will tell this story and then I'll go back to the why not do a full edit. I have many things to say and many feelings about these books, so you may get them in a slightly scattered fashion. That's just how it's going to be. At the time, Meg was in grad school and working very long hours on her MA thesis. And so we had started dating in the summer, and 4 or so months into the relationship, my partner is working close to 16-hour days on an MA thesis. And so my options for seeing her were being where she was while she was working on an MA thesis, or not seeing her for the most part, at least for certain chunks of time. And so it was Thanksgiving break, and my immediate family was going to Illinois to see another part of the family. And I don't remember if I had another reason or if it was just that I wanted to spend time with Meg. Spending time with Meg is perfectly enough of a reason. But I stayed there and spent the break with her. But because she was working so many long hours, I had to be doing something to entertain myself, because if I wasn't going to entertain myself, I would be distracting her from work by like, hey, let's do things together. So I had to bring my own work or find my own work. And at the time I was writing was it this? Yeah, I was writing a novel that ultimately would become Born of the Blade, but it would have to go through several like reimaginations and edits. But it was a novel in that setting that I would end up selling to Serial Box, now Realm. But I'd had a like kind of just mote spark seed of an idea that was what if geekiness was a magic system. And a lot of my writing projects start from that kind of what if place of what if this thing, or what if I did X meets Y. And now that I have kind of taken the Gallup-Clifton Strengths Assessment and done like strengths training, I know that emerges, that can be classified as emerging from the ideation strength, which is my number 5, which is in the kind of top category, like the most active, most powerful. If you want to brainstorm and you're a writer friend of mine, contact me and I will probably be able to make the time to help you brainstorm things, because often I have ideas when I don't need to have ideas. I will have ideas and have to keep myself from spewing a bunch of ideas at someone because I'm trying to be helpful. I am, in recent years, trying to be much more conscious and deliberate about not offering unsolicited ideas and unsolicited advice, and asking, like, hey, I've got some, like, I'd be happy to share some ideas if that was going to be useful, or, you know, do you want to brainstorm this, that kind of stuff. So I had just a little bit of an idea, and I love urban fantasy. It's been a favorite genre of mine since at least watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a kid, possibly even earlier from stuff like, you know, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles urban fantasy? Sort of. You could make that argument. Gargoyles is certainly urban fantasy, and that was another favorite earlier in my life. And so I thought I'd kind of turn my hand to urban fantasy. The very first novel I wrote was an urban fantasy with strong romance elements. I cannibalized some stuff from that for Geekomancy, for sure, because Geekomancy was also drawing on my experience working at a game store, at the Game Preserve in Bloomington, Indiana, which was a big part of my life. I hung out at the Game Preserve for that was the place that I went to hang out and make friends and hang out with those friends from, I would say, either late middle school or early high school, and certainly all through high school. And then I worked there the last year in high school and all the way through undergrad. So it was a very big part of my life. And there is a lot of the Game Preserve in in Zombie Cafe or Cafe Zombie, and in Grognard's. Some of the weird, quirky customers that show up in, one of those are informed by various customers at the Game Preserve. Nobody is really, I don't think anyone is really like just strict one-to-one, because I thought that it would be smarter and kinder to not just like pull somebody straight out of my life and plop them into a novel without permission, but instead take inspiration from qualities and personality traits and things that people did. Big shout out to Gargoyles. Is there like a reboot coming? Is that something that somebody's doing? I thought I heard about that. Is that real? Is that just wishful thinking? Gargoyles reboot. Let's see. Keith David has a bold plan to reboot the show in 2022 from Inverse.com. Greg Weisman, co-creator of Gargoyles, would be interested in continuing. None of this says that it's happening. This is just like people want to do the thing. That'd be fun. I think you could. If it's in development, that's fantastic. CBR comic, CBR is, I would not necessarily treat as super hard evidence. Gargoyles creator would rather continue the series than reboot, but that's from 2020. Yeah, maybe. But anyway, with Geekomancy, I had lots of like stuff in my life to draw on, and I pretty quickly found the character voice for Ree. And specifically what I found even before that was the third person close POV for Geekomancy, where from third person, you like, the way I write third person in this series is very close to first person. But for whatever reason, because of how my brain works, very close third person is easier for me to write than first person. for that character. I have written first person. I wrote first person in The Younger Gods, and I wrote first person in Shield and Crocus, but then I turned it onto third person. I changed all of the POV, or almost all of the POV, and the tense in Shield and Crocus. I'm pretty sure I changed it, the first person chunk to third person, and then I changed everything that was in present tense to past tense. Because for me, superhero comics happen in present tense. Superman flies across the football field, not Superman flew across the football field, because you are seeing snapshots, you are seeing moments of action. And so for me, that is present tense. That's just how my brain works. Shout out to Close Third Person. Fault Tolerance by Valerie Aldez is coming in August? Yes. August 22nd. It's the third book in the series. It's very good. Folks who are watching, if you read and liked Annihilation Aria and you have not checked out Valerie's series, then you really, really should. The first book is called Chilling Effect. So check it out. It's very fun and cool. I started writing Geekomancy over that Thanksgiving break, and it was really fun, and I was like kind of cackling to myself as I was writing, and it quickly became known as Distraction, the novel, because it was distracting me from the other novel that was what I was quote unquote supposed to be working on, because I had said, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do. Like I've got a lot of world building, already set up for this, because I had written a previous, one of my other trunk novels was in that same setting, and that one was like a sky pirate adventure novel, but I already had all this world building that was done, but instead I had all of this energy and excitement and momentum for this, Distraction the novel, which became Geekomancy. And so sometime in, November, December, January, I just decided, okay, this is what I'm writing now. I'm just going to keep going with this cool energy that I have, and I'm going to follow my gut here, and wrote, I started in November of 2010. When did I start querying? No, I didn't start querying. I'm going to see if I can find my very, very first email from the editor for this series. This may not be viable, because we sent a lot of emails. We worked on 5 books together, so that's a lot of emails. Well, okay, not so many emails. So I got an email from Adam Wilson on Monday, January 23rd, 2012, which was basically, that email said, hey, you may or may not recognize my name. I did an interview for Book Country, and I read a little bit of this novel, Geekomancy. I found your website. I saw from your website that you have a finished draft, and then I found your email address on your on the contact part of your website, and then that's why I'm emailing now. The lesson for all of you writers out there who have not already published things or want to publish more things is make sure that your website has a way for people to contact you, so that if you get the absolute wild lucky happenstance of some editor wanting to commission or buy something from you, they can get in touch with you as easily as possible. Will this happen to everyone? Absolutely not. Will it happen often enough that it's definitely worth making it so that people can contact you? Yes, because other people will want to contact you. Booksellers, people will want to contact you for interviews. People will want you to come to their convention, whatever. It's good to have at least a very basic website with your publications and a way for people to reach you. This is my recommendation to basically anybody who is looking to pursue a career as a writer, where you would want people to be contacting you for work. If like you just want to write things and put them out anonymously on AO3 or Wattpad and you don't want people to contact you, it doesn't apply. And that's totally fine. Like, you could reach a lot of people writing just for AO3 and Wattpad and not anywhere else. And the just is a constraint, not a limitation. Some of the most powerful works of fiction that I've read have been fanfic. So shout out to fanfic writers. You're doing amazing work. Yeah, everyone has their own goals. Like, that is identifying what someone wants from their career is like the number one thing that I do when I am coaching a writer. Like when someone is coming to me for strategization, or when they want mentoring, or like when I'm mentoring for like the Nebulas or something, is I hear a little bit, I get a little bit of a sense of who this person is, and then I just like straight up ask, like, what kind of career do you want? And what, sometimes I'll say, like, it's 5 years, like, let's imagine it's 5 years from now and your career has gone the way that you want it. What does that look like? And why are you happy about it? There's a few different ways of being able to imagine it. Some are easier or harder for different people because everybody's different. So yeah, I wrote this novel, and at that time in January, I had just finished, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so before that. I could go back in my blog and find out, but I've already gone back into my records and found one thing. But I had just barely started revising the book. So it's important to know that when I got this email out of the blue from a commissioning editor being like, hey, can I see this book? I was like, it's not edited even really a little bit. It's very messy. And so I emailed back and said, I was very grateful and excited, but I didn't want to like misrepresent myself or the book. So I said, like, it's very messy right now. Like, if you want to wait for me to do revisions, that's totally fine. Instead, he was like, no, send it. And this is the second biggest lesson from the weird publication process of how Geekomancy appeared the first time is, if an editor, or if a reputable editor at a publishing house that you would be happy to publish with, ask for your manuscript, you probably want to say yes. We can probably come up with reasons why you wouldn't want to, and some of those reasons are why I put the caveats in there of like reputable editor at a publisher you would be happy to work with. Because if somebody at some publisher you've never heard of, that when you do research seems kind of sketchy, asks for your manuscript, that is not something where I'm going to tell you that you should send your manuscript to them. And even if you do send your manuscript to someone, if they are reputable, that does not constitute an obligation. Oh, good question. Yeah, so I'll finish up the original publication story real quick, and then I can jump into that. The kids are asleep because I think it's a good one. So I sent this very bloody draft to Adam at Simon & Schuster, and then a couple of weeks later was like, cool, I want to buy it. And my eyes got bigger and bigger. And so I knew that I wanted to work with an agent, which meant that I emailed Adam back and be like, I'm very excited. If you can give me a couple of weeks, I'm going to find representation and you can figure out the contract with my agent. Because I was a strong believer in having literary representation. I knew some stuff about publishing from having worked in publishing, my dad working in publishing, and having colleagues and friends who had already started publishing. My friend Marie Brennan had already had, I think, 2 or maybe 3 books out by this time, because Marie is a machine of amazing writing. And, had heard from Marie and from other people about literary agents, and I was already on Codex, and so I had some support networks there. So I talked to a few different agents and decided to work with Sarah Megabo, who I worked with from Geekomancy through to late 2018, when kind of what I needed from an agent had changed, and I decided to seek different representation, which is where I'm now, working with Kim May Kirtland, who is awesome. Shout outs to Kim May, who's probably not watching this, because Kim May is wisely avoiding most of the internet. It's a good call, if you can hack it. So I turn the book in, Adam and I do some revisions back and forth, and the book is scheduled to come out in like October, maybe September or October of 2012. And, you know, the revisions take us until March, maybe April. And then in, I think probably May, Adam gets a note from other people in Simon & Schuster being like, hey, you know what you should do? You should put Geekomancy out during Comic-Con, and we'll do a big promo. And so Adam pitched this to me and said, like, hey, this is what they want to do. And it's what we did. And they promoted it a lot at Comic-Con, and they put it out at promotional pricing, and they did some advertising at on an anime website. It was not a website that I knew about, but that it generated a lot of traffic. And so what this did was that it meant that the book launched very strong very quickly, because $1.99 is a very accessible price point. It was even more novel in 2012. The idea that you could get a whole novel for $2 for your e-reader. Not as many people used e-readers as now, but you know, there was still kind of already a big swell, because Kindle hits in 2009, 2010. I think maybe KDP starts slightly before Kindle. I don't actually remember. I wasn't paying super close attention, and it's been a while. 12 or 13 years now. But the first book came out. It got a lot of attention. It sold a bunch of copies pretty quickly, and that meant that there was excitement and interest in doing more books, which is why we did Geekomancy and Celebrimancy, and that second book was already on contract, and then we did the novella, and then we did one more novel. But as happens with many series, you sell X many copies of book one, and then maybe 70% as many people buy book two, and then those people have read book two, and then you put out book three, and then maybe 80% of those people read book three, because the people you've lost from book one to book two are already the people you're going to lose, and then the drop off is smaller from book two to book three or whatever. And that drop off arc, like the curve, looks different for different series. The shallower your drop off curve, the more likely that series is to continue and get a lot more ongoing support. And because so many of the sales of that first book were at about $1.99, a lot of the people who bought that book were not ideal readers. They were people who were like, sure, I'll give it a shot. And they were not the people who are most delighted by the book. And so the drop-off from book one to book two looked pretty big. And I think that informed why, after the novella and book three, there was not interest from Simon & Schuster to continue the series. At this point, it was 2015. I was also putting out The Younger Gods with Simon & Schuster as like the attempt, trying to start something different. That book didn't really find an audience for any number of reasons. And then I moved on. But then in, I think 2020 or 2011, I decided with talking with Kim May to ask for the rights back for the series. I got them back. I was not able to do anything with them until earlier this year because pandemic and limited bandwidth of my brain, basically. And then I started the production process. So I can talk about the republication process here in a minute, because I'm going to get to the Kids That Are Asleep's question. And I know that the republication process will include the editing question that I walked away from. So the Kids Are Asleep asks, question whenever you want to dig into it, how do you decide which stuff to include as your geek touch points and magical fodder in the books? And this is a good question, because I was really amused by some of the reviews that the book got. Some of the negative reviews are like, these are all like way too surface level pop culture references. Clearly this is a fake Geek Boy. Anybody that actually knows me knows how much bullshit that is. I intentionally foregrounded a lot of pop culture references that were more accessible, because I did not want to write a book that was only for people who were really, 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 really into geek stuff, and specifically really into exactly only the things that I was really into. Because that is a subsection of a subsection of a subsection. For a book that was a general celebration of what I think is great about geekiness and geek communities when they are doing what they can be doing, is that there's so many different ways of being a geek. And over the course of the series, I round this out where Ree is mostly focused on genre emulation and embodying geeky stuff. Eastwood is more of like a collectibles prop kinds of person, and like bigger geek rituals. Patricia Talon is more like geeky magical weapons oriented, so like a Geekomancy blacksmith type character. And then I have other people across the different magical systems. There's cinemancers who have a different relationship to like TV and movies than the Geekomancers, and like there's this kind of whole ecosystem. So I thought a lot about what are kind of easily accessible pop culture references and references that I think would, or properties that I think this character would connect the most with. So that meant a lot of characters who, like where I could, characters that were women. So, you know, you get Black Canary, you get Wonder Woman, you get Buffy, characters who are just very, very popular writ large, and especially characters who I think connect really powerfully with young people. So that's like Spider-Man. Let's see, what other stuff? I wrote these books long enough ago that I don't remember necessarily everything. And I've more recently been focusing on Celebromancy because I did like a deep proof on that because there was some formatting weirdness. The Princess Bride is in there basically because I love The Princess Bride a lot. I tended to focus on TV, movie, and comics references more so than literary references and tabletop RPG references, because I thought that those would be more readily accessible for a lot of people. And having probably 80% of the pop culture references be more broad in their appeal, to include and like let in on the joke a wider chunk of people, then I included a much smaller number of more obscure, esoteric pop culture references, rather than making the book, like creating the book as if it were a nerd litmus test. I did not want it to be a nerd litmus test. And therefore you get this funny result where people who don't know me and only are engaging with the text think that the references that I used were not intentionally chosen for their wide accessibility, but instead betrayed a shallow, quote unquote, shallow knowledge. No, it was on purpose, you jerks. It's very funny because there is obscure stuff in there, and a lot of stuff is obscure if you are not in the sub-chunk of the fandom, that like if you're not in that type of fandom. There are tons of people who are just anime fans, and they're as much like geeky super fans as anybody. There are people who are comics fans but not, you know, cinematic universe fans. There are people who are cinematic universe fans but not comic book fans. There are, you know, TTRPG and card game fans who are not at all into like horror movies or anything. That world of media geekdom is so wide, was already so wide in 2012 through 2015. And so I didn't want to be just shooting a bunch of things over people's heads so that I could feel cool. Because that's not what I wanted the books to be about. And so I think over the course of the series, I include maybe a few more things that are a little bit more obscure, like Leverage is more obscure. It was a fairly popular show, but it was on cable instead of network TV, and it's not technically science fiction or fantasy, even though like they do absolutely wild stuff with hacking and things like that. I wanted the reader to feel cool and included and have a good time either way. Precisely. And I think some of that was conscious and some of it was subconscious. I definitely remember making intentional choices to use more accessible references fairly often. But I have, you know, the doubt, capital T, capital D, in the series is absolutely drawn from and a reference to how the supernatural stays hidden in the World of Darkness RPGs. And especially these days, the World of Darkness RPGs, outside of Vampire the Masquerade, fairly obscure within geekdom, because the Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition has made a pretty big splash. There's high profile actual plays of it, but the other games not so much. And White Wolf went through a bunch of different stuff. In the late 1990s, White Wolf stuff was very mainstream within tabletop RPGs, because this was right before D&D 3rd edition, so D&D was kind of at its nadir in broad pop culture recognition and popularity within geekdom stuff. And White Wolf kind of was at its relative maximum popularity late 90s into the 2000s. I would have to go back and look to try to ID where I thought kind of White Wolf's decline was. It's probably around when New World of Darkness happens, because just not as many people connected with New World of Darkness. And so, here's a good pivot point. If I wanted to rewrite Geekomancy, if I decided, okay, I'm going to do a total refresh of the series, I'm not just going to remove language that I've learned not to use since the first time I published them, I am going to update them for 2022. Oh, yeah. I don't think I've seen that World of Darkness documentary. World of Darkness, the documentary, 2017. Yeah, I need to go back and watch that. I played a lot of World of Darkness in high school and into college. Those games are an early set of games that really expanded for me what my understanding of tabletop role-playing games was, in terms of what they could be, the material and content and thematic landscape that they could explore, before kind of the indie boom in the 2000s that was kind of another stage of expansion and revolution. Vampire Life. So yeah, before this was Wakanda Forever, this was I Am Invisible in Vampire LARP and World of Darkness LARP, which is very funny. So the kids are asleep. Do you remember what clan character you played? Was this too long ago to remember that? I would be curious. True Bruja? Okay. I would say, if I were to typecast a Valerie, I might say Bruja. But that's cool. We'll have to chat about Vampire LARP some other time, a bit more, so that this does not become just a Vampire LARP discussion. Time, Bruja. A friend of mine. So let me shout out this podcast. A friend who GM'd most of the World of Darkness games that I played in high school is as far as I can tell, occasional guest on Mage, the podcast, a Mage the Ascension podcast. So I used to game with Victor Kinzer, because Victor and I were both in Bloomington, Indiana. So shout out to Victor. I think I saw this podcast because of that a couple of days ago, and didn't realize it. Started listening to the episode and was like, "Oh, I know who that person is." And I know Victor has done other writing about World of Darkness games, including especially Changeling the Dreaming. I've seen a lot of Victor's writing on that. So that's pretty fun to have ended up back in some of the same circles. And we hung out at Worldcon in Chicago, whenever that was. Not the one that's this year, but the last one, 2014, 2015 or so. So if I get back up there and Victor is still in Chicago, I should make sure to get in touch. Note to self: in several months, I'm sure I will remember. That I'm not sure that I will remember. Hopefully I will. But yeah, that was really fun. World of Darkness. Yeah, so if I was going to do a total rewrite, I would have to make the decision of whether to keep Ree at the relative same age because Ree as Ree was a few years younger than I was when I wrote the book the first time. So I was 28, 27, 28, and I was writing Ree as like 24, 25. And so I was in most systems I count as an older millennial because I'm an 83 kid. And so a lot of what I put into Ree and Ree's life was the feeling of being a underemployed elder millennial trying to reboot my life after not getting into a PhD program. Because I finished undergrad in 2005. I finished my master's degree in 2007 and did not get into the various PhD programs that I was hoping to. I could have done the Indiana University PhD program in folklore, but I had heard that it's better for your career prospects to get your PhD from a different institution than where you got your BA. And so I spent a couple of years applying to various PhD programs, and I did not go back to work at the Game Preserve because enough time had passed that the people who I worked with didn't work there anymore, and so I couldn't just walk back in and get a job there again. So instead, I worked as a bear builder at Build-A-Bear Workshop with people who I had worked with at the Game Preserve and another friend. Shout outs to Emily and James and James, who is down in New Orleans, who I saw November before the pandemic. So I worked with them at a Build-A-Bear Workshop for a few months, which is retail. There were a lot of things that were good about that job, along with the things that were not so fun. Like the clothes we had to wear, bad. Being on my feet all the time, not super great. Certainly wouldn't try to do it now. But yeah, there were really cool things about Build-A-Bear. And it definitely helped me build on my my retail and hand selling skills and my social management skills. So that's very cool, Rudnell. Good to see you. Thanks for you've probably been here the whole time because I know that's how you roll. I was only at Build-A-Bear for about 6 months, so very good chance that I did not build that Build-A-Bear. I actually didn't know that they were around that long. I thought that they were like a 90s or 2000s chain. Just they didn't hit where I lived until much later, I guess. But if you've still got one from 83, that is very good construction. Glad to hear it. So yeah, they were shop in the mid 80s. Because what it is to be a geek in 2022 is different than what it is to be a geek in 2012. In 2012, the Avengers movie had not come out, I think, when my book came out. Let me double check if that's true. When did the Avengers movie? Because I know it was 2012. Because I feel like the Avengers movie was really when the MCU graduated into being the MCU. Partially because Joss Whedon at the time was very popular, and now we know that turns out he was kind of a shitbag. Was not making Build-A-Bear bears at age 2, thank goodness. When did you actually come out? Okay, no, so Avengers had just come out. So Avengers is May 4th, 2012 in the US. So then Geekomancy came out 2 months after. But Avengers had not come out when I wrote the book and when I sold it. So that's the timing there. The program, in 2006 and 2007, I was pitching PhD programs on, hey, the geek stuff is becoming really popular and it's going to be very interesting to study, because I, as someone who is inside geek culture, was already seeing it happening in the ways that stuff was happening on the internet. And this was even before Iron Man came out, I think. Okay. I would have to go and do some research, so I don't know on the Build-A-Bear thing. So the Geekomancy is, at this point, because it's 10 years old now, is kind of now a period urban fantasy or historical urban fantasy, because it's very much written of the time that, like, it's of the time that it was written in, because I was drawing on direct personal experience and some indirect personal experience in terms of like my what I knew about being a geek from like the other people that I knew. Yeah, it's a snapshot of when it came out. So that was a big part of why I decided that I did not want to do a full rewrite on these, because I don't know, I would have to do so much work to reboot these, or basically to do a remake in order to update it, and for the character to be in the same kind of life stage and age stage. Ree would instead be a Zoomer, I think an older Zoomer, or a very young millennial. And my younger sister is a young millennial. We're kind of almost at the two ends of the generation. And her experience growing up and being a geeky person and mine were fairly different, and for not just the generational reasons, but the generational part is a big part of it. And so instead what I did is, especially in Celebromancy, I pulled the dates out. I took out all the dates that said like 2011, 2012, so that someone who knows kind of the ebb and flow of geek history and remembers what things were like at, times in the 2009 to 2014, sunshine goths, like the ones I know are so cheerily cynical. The biggest like Zoomer thing that I remember, and this is for younger Zoomers, is during in the climate, there was a big wave of climate marches in like 2018, somewhere between 2018 and 2020, or 2018 and 2019, because it was pre-pandemic and time is a flat circle. These like maybe 10 to 14-year-old kids all decked out in black t-shirts and like cargo, two big cargo pants, and one of them was holding a sign that says, "I want to die, but I don't want the world to." And so like that's one of the things that is imprinted in my brain about like this is a representation of Zoomer generational ethos, which lines up with the Sunshine Goth thing. And so rather than like redo the books to kind of update them to be contemporary, I decided to leave them as that kind of snapshot, but to remove a few of the elements that are more explicitly dated, and to, along with like removing ableist language, which I did to the best of my ability, I also I removed some references to shitty creators, because there were other people working at the same time who I could reference, and it would do just as good or a better job, because it would not give praise to people that I've since learned are really shitty. Like the character still uses Buffy's powers, but Buffy was not made solely by Joss Whedon. There are a lot of other producers, a lot of writers, a lot of directors, in addition to everybody else that made that TV show. And so that was the line that I drew. Like, I removed references to China Mieville because of having since learned that he seems to have been pretty shitty and maybe abusive in his interpersonal relationships. And even though those books meant a lot to me as a younger writer, and I've definitely informed my view of genre and especially the new weird, I didn't want to make people have to like have that in their face if I could avoid it, and I could because I'm the writer. And thank you very much, Aridno. It is fun. I have been waving the book around because it's very fun. For 10 years, almost 10 years, this book has only existed in ebook and digital audio. There's never been a paper version except for a very, very tiny number of I had a small number of so the China Mieville stuff is not as I think that the reporting is not as solid as the reporting on like Joss Whedon, but there was some bigger writer. Let me see if I can find. Okay, so I think this is the first piece that I heard about China. Kind of, for anybody, do your own research. The stuff that I've seen was enough for me to not want to kind of give him spotlight anymore. Everybody make your own decision, you know, all that good stuff. So yeah, book. The only physical copies that I had, and actually I probably still have one or two. Let me get them. So I still have a few of these because I don't know that they were especially great promotional material. So I have this, which is a very small, right? Because look at this. This is not a normal commercial format. It's not really mass market. So it has a slightly lower res version of the cover. It's just tape bound. There's nothing on the back. And then it's basically just the PDF formatting of the book. And so I got a few of those for a few different books. For one of the Comic Cons that I did stuff at, where Simon & Schuster was supporting the series, they did print, I don't know, probably another 100 or so of this so that I could do a physical signing. And that was really cool, because that was the first time that I'd done a physical signing, because all these books in my first few years were digital only. And, you know, doing that got the word out about the series to a bunch of people, and that's very, very cool. But this was never in stores. This could not be stocked in stores, because this was not actually a retail product. This is a promotional material. And so that's why having this means a lot to me. So yeah, that kind of gets into the republishing process, where, let's see, what else? So I talked about the re-editing. I tried to make this time around doing self-publishing more streamlined, because I knew I was going to do it at least 4 times over the course of a couple of seasons, and I was shooting for 1 book a month. It was going to be, at first it was going to be July, August, September, October. Did I miss a month in there? Anyway, I moved it up because I was trying to hit Origins, even though I've ended up not going to Origins. So Geekomancy today, Celebromancy is going to come out in July, Attack the Geek in August, and Hexamancy in September is currently the plan. And it looks like we're going to be on target to do that. The book files for Celebromancy will be done probably in the next week or 2, and then I'll order proofs and get all of that stuff ready. Attack the Geek will go faster because it's a much smaller book. I have to kind of reproof, make sure that the formatting is good from, you know, the Word doc version that I have, and then send it to RJ Theodore, Rekka, who is doing the formatting to me. So shout out to Rekka for being awesome. Also, is Flotsam still on sale? I'm gonna look that up, because if it is, then I want to shout people. I want to shout it out. Yes, Flotsam, book 1 of the Paradox Shift is on sale right now for $1.99. So if you read on Amazon, which is a lot of people, you will be able to find it here. Let me make sure that link is correct. I chopped off all the gobbledygook, but yes, it is correct. So Flotsam is another book that I would recommend, especially to Annihilation Aria fans, because it also does space fantasy found family. That series' space fantasy is different. It's more, it's a bit more like, it has more things that people would associate with steampunk, even though it's not really steampunk. And it's very cool and inventive, and like as you read it, there's more and more like going on in the world than maybe you expected, which is always really fun. Yeah, like it's very disappointing to have discovered so many creators that meant a lot to me as a younger writer and person turned out to be really shitty to a lot of people that they work with. And like that, if I were gonna go back and write more Geekomancy books, more books in this world, that's probably one of the things that I would want to grapple with, is like how people relate to cults of personality and like the ways in which personality and celebrity do and don't inform fandom. I probably would not be wise to like take direct shots fictionally at J.K. Rowling for being really shitty. I might take indirect shots and just like say things straight up on Twitter in order to like the UK's libel laws work different than libel works in the US, is what I'll say. But fuck TERFs. Happy Pride. Support trans people. Like, seriously. We have the opportunity here to avoid an international genocide of queer people. Let's do that thing. Let's avoid the genocide and kick the ass of all the fascists who want to murder a bunch of my friends. So yeah. All right, so the anti-fascism board on the Mike Bingo stream board, you can check that one off. I don't think we've gotten the socialism one yet today. So yeah, the first thing I did was I reached out to, quick talk about clocks. Waypoint released their latest episode has a Citizen Sleeper spoiler cast. So I have to imagine that they are going to talk about clocks in that as well. Because I know at least one of the people on that, at least some of the people who are still at Waypoint have played Blaze in the Dark or the Forge in the Dark games, since they know about clocks in that fashion. Because it's really those kind of clocks more than like Apocalypse World clocks. Anyway, I love seeing all of the various pride emojis in the chat, so keep that rolling. It warms my heart. I reached out to, or I searched for urban fantasy cover designers, because what I knew that I wanted for this edition was I wanted covers that just really, really blatantly said urban fantasy. This is geeky urban fantasy. These covers are consistent. Geeky urban fantasy. Line drive in genre in all the ways that they look and how the covers operate, but also make sure to say that it's geeky. Like, these are urban fantasy covers was agenda number 1. Make sure that it's geeky was agenda number 2. Because what I've seen, especially in self-publishing, is that genre signaling in urban fantasy is very, very important. And that there are a few types of covers, and really one type of cover in the middle that is the most, this is urban fantasy. There is some stereotyping that goes into this, because there is some stereotyping in urban fantasy, which is a single woman wearing jeans and probably leather pants, looking hot. Still a thing. Or like super square-jawed guy looking like a magical detective is the other most common person on an urban fantasy cover, right? The kind of Children of Dresden, and all that kind of thing. So, Deranged Doctor Design, whose name is a company I'm not super into, but it is what it is. All the people who work there have been very lovely to work with. So, yeah, urban fantasy, like the branding is very strong and very consistent in self-publishing. Even if like some of the traditional stuff that's more recent has been moving away from that branding or broadening the branding. But I did not have, say, source books or Rick Riordan's publishing company pushing the book this time. I didn't have Simon & Schuster. It's just all me. So I saw that Deranged Doctor, yeah, I love it. Thank you very much, Arudno. Hi, Oli. Thanks for coming by. That is that's one of your own emotes. Very cool. I reached out to somebody about putting me in touch with someone to commission emotes, and then that person was busy, so I need to reach out again to see, and if not, then talk to some other people that I know who have contacts that do emotes, because I know that I have probably 5 or 6 slots for emotes at this point. Yeah, that is a lot of them. I am impressed by the variety of emoji that are available, because these look like, are those all kind of just Twitch level emotes, like almost all of them, like anybody can use? It looks like most of them are just Twitch emotes. So good job, Twitch. Make sure that your actions follow through on all of that emoji support in terms of supporting creators and protecting them from harassers. Most useful is Pride Shrug, yeah. Global Twitch Pride emotes. Cool. Thank you very much, folks, for confirming that for me. Uli and Arudno. Vibes. Very good. Geekomancy. Oh, branding. So I had experience doing cover art commissioning. Peripheral mic. Cool. Those emotes are very good, Mer. Since I'd done art direction at chat became all emojis. Yay! I'd done art direction basically as kind of like unofficial sort of assistant art director, working with Mark Gascoigne, who was at the time the managing director, publisher of Angry Robot. So, working for Mark and helping with art direction. I learned a lot about how to write an art brief, how to communicate with artists, how to identify like comparative covers and all that kind of stuff. So I felt very prepared going into the art direction process. I know the kind of cover that I want. I can see that this company does those covers. They have experience making It's an Urban Fantasy cover. And in my brief, I referenced several covers that they had made, like that this company had made in order. Yeah, do I have all those as well? Global, yeah, so I got all of the kind of these Pride ones. And yeah, there's just a lot of global here that I just have not gotten in the habit of using, so they don't show up. So, we can have all of this good stuff. A+. Yeah, like it's so common to get more complaints when you take something away from people, right? Because you're never going to know what emotes people are really going to connect with. Oh, cool. So yeah, that command :pride. So that gives me these prides plus a couple, but not all of the ones that Arudno found. Yeah, that you really don't want to be like, here, go back in the closet. You don't get to express your identity anymore. It's no longer been deemed. We're no longer within the commercially acceptable commoditization period of your identity. Is no good. I just walk the walk the whole time. All right, Meg is calling, so I'm going to mute my mic and take this call real quick. I'm sorry. I will just do this. Like this. Now, if I timed that right, you get the end of the this now having cut off the this previously, like the very longest anticipation kind of deal. Well, I would certainly want to have at least one Pride emote. Companies be like, "Happy Pride! Please buy our stock to stock your closet for when you get shoved back in on July 1st." Yeah. Do not want to live in that version of the world, for sure. So yeah, the process of working with Deranged Doctor, everything was fine with Meg. Just checking in. No worries there. Process has been really great. I don't have the paperback. I don't have proofs for Celebromancy yet. But what I do have that I can add here as a element, excuse me, is I'm going to share with y'all the cover for Attack the Geek. It's a good bit, Uli. No, not that thing. It is wild how easily promotional stuff can just eat up an entire day. Oh, that's very big. Basically, all I've been doing today is promoting this book. So yeah, here is the cover for Attack the Geek. We have a gloriously bullshit magic sword, which is what I asked for. And you'll see at the top there, we've got kind of a like neon D20 bar sign. When I was working on the cover process for Celebromancy, a writer friend suggested turning the moon into a D20, which was a fabulous idea. And that then unlocked an idea for me, which was, oh, the way that I can make sure to have consistency of this is all geeky urban fantasy is to just put a D20 on every cover. At least like a D20 outline type of thing. Yeah, like some companies have genuinely done good work in terms of supporting queer people and like making sure that they stand against bigots in the kind of the economic side of like civil rights wars, and so like that's really good. 30 years ago, it would have been much harder to convince companies to do something like that. And just it has changed largely because people got cooler, and then enough people made the good and humane choice, and enough people who were able to then support their communities got into positions where they could influence a larger group, right? And so that's very cool. It's like I really like having the D20s on every cover. I've seen a rough of the cover for Hexomancy. It continues this process. You know, the D20 is always going to be fairly prominent. It's amusingly, the D20 for Geekomancy is the least prominent, but I have the fact that literally the word geek is in the title, and that does a lot of work, so I don't have to worry so much. I do not have contemporary urban sci-fi that I've written. I have a weird fantasy superhero novel that has definitely some science fiction elements in the same way that the new Weird has science fiction and fantasy, but that may not necessarily be, it's not present day, so it may not be totally up your alley. Summit Pasu's book. I have been doing better at keeping up on reading, but I still don't get to read anywhere near as much as I would like. So, The City Inside, yeah, let me get a link here. So here's a link to the publisher page for that. Check out Uli if you like. So yeah, this is the cover for Attack the Geek. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with it. The whole process of working with Deranged Doctor Design has been really good. So shout outs to them for very good work. And in another work, I will probably have the cover for Hexomancy sooner than a month from now, but I'll want to figure out where and how to do the reveal. Yeah, the purple on this is, I love it so much. The use of colors that they've done has been really great. So that is cool. I'm going to shrink this down, and then I'm just going to have, that's too much shrunk. I'm just going to have all of the covers in the stream because I can. Let's see, I need to add solid row. So unfortunately I moved my assets for cover design stuff. So I broke the links from the last time that I did these. Unfortunately, they're going to come into the stream at really high resolution because that's how big the image is. I guess I don't have the like easy make it line up thing. Anyway, and then I'm going to do the one for Geekomancy because it's a launch party and why not? And then in another few minutes here, I will do a giveaway or two, which is also my want. Just a little bit smaller. Okay, that. Close enough. Ta-da! Da-da-da-da-da-da! It's wonderful. So yeah, in about another 3 or maybe 3.5 months, you will be able to get all 4 of these books, the 3 novels plus the novella, in paperback, put them on your shelf, shove a paperback at somebody who you think would like it, being like, you should read this book, it's great, if that is something that you want to do. I know that a lot of people have been wonderful and recommended the book a bunch to friends. It's much easier to recommend a book to friends when you can physically hand them a thing. For people who like reading in paperback. The audio editions for Geekomancy, Celebromancy, and Attack the Geek are still available, so you can get those as well if you like. We did not find a partner for audio for Hexomancy, so that still is not available. Hardcover, yeah, I might, in a few months or another year or so, poke at the idea of like doing a Kickstarter just for a limited hardcover set for the Ree Reyes series. I'd have to do more like research and production work, and the cost it'd probably be a little bit more expensive to do it for me to do it than for like a hardcover set that you'd get from a traditional publisher. But that's maybe something to like test the waters and see how many people would be interested in this. Is that enough people for it to be worthwhile for me to put pay to get kind of the extra production work done, so that people could get those? Because I still have some hardcovers of Geekomancy from the set that I ordered for the Kickstarter, which I need to start bringing. I need to start bringing those hardcovers to conventions to sell, or figure out some other way to sell them. Because right now they're just sitting in a box, and that's they're not looking good on someone's shelf, which is where they should be living. I just I recently got this Ergodex Easy keyboard, and so I learned about some of the stuff like keyboard hobbyist culture from Waypoint when they were doing things. No worries. My book Annihilation Aria is like space opera, but that's it's not contemporary. It's got some fantasy, so it may not be your thing. Urban sci-fi. I'll have to ponder. If you haven't read the Lives of Tao series, that's probably directly up your alley, Uli. Let me find a good link for that. Is bookshop.org a good site for you, Uli? Should I be looking somewhere else? My inner bookseller is coming out. Okay. I am very silly because you know what might qualify is Genrenauts. So if you don't know about Genrenauts, is so the characters are all contemporary, and they're dimension hopping story heists. So there's a multiverse, and the other worlds of the multiverse are different genres. So there's a Western genre world, there's a space opera genre world, there's romance, but all of it is through the lens of contemporary characters using science fiction tools and methodologies to do this dimension hopping. So that's probably what I have that is closest to what you describe. Yeah, Farscapes meets Guardians of the Galaxy is a very good comparison, very good pitch for Aria. Thank you. So yeah, there's the Lives of Tao link. If you want to check it out, Wes is an author that I worked with a lot at Angry Robot, and it got a lot of attention. It won the Alex Award for adult science fiction fantasy books that are good for teens, which is mostly just a representation of the fact that it's a very fun, easy breezy read. So maybe you like it. Okay. So I'm going to shout out to Twitter that I'm about to do a giveaway. It is hard to type and talk at the same time. So tweeting that out, and then we'll give it. Yeah. So Annihilation Aria has the rights from Parvis have reverted to me because the publisher closed up shop. So the audiobook is still available. There may be some physical bookstores where you can find, you can still find a copy. I have paperback copies, so if you're in the US and really would love to get a copy, you're welcome to like send me a whisper and we can try to figure something out. But I have not like republished it as an ebook. My agent is currently in the process of trying to find it a new home because I would much rather keep it. I would put it back into the traditional marketplace to have that broad reach to a bunch of readers. Oh yeah, we get the reseller, the totally wild, silly resellers that people that show up. It's pretty annoying, but some of those same people also do other reselling that's not so bad. Yeah, because I did inventory because I in preparation for Origins, so I have 5 or 6 copies of Annihilation Aria still in paperback that I was planning on selling. So I can. Europe. Yeah, very difficult for me to get those to Europe in a way that's affordable for anybody. But hopefully, if I find a new publisher, they will have global distribution. So that's that. We've got some people. I'm giving it another minute in case people want to come by for the giveaway. Because I'm not going to Origins, I am probably going to stream at least one more time this week, which probably will not be tomorrow because I just streamed today, and Meg doesn't work on Wednesdays, and I had just gotten into the habit of streaming on Wednesdays, and so maybe if I don't stream tomorrow, we'll have more time together, and that will be good. Maybe we'll take Oreo to Bark Social, the kind of dog bar social club thing that's very fun. So I'll probably stream on some combination of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then do I have something on Sunday? Is that Sunday's the 12th? On Sunday the 12th, I will be in the Bag of Giving game. That starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern over at Arv's channel. I think most of the people who are here know Arv, but I will put it into chat just to be sure, and for anybody who ends up watching on YouTube later on. Shout outs to people who are watching on YouTube, whenever it is. Could be days from now, weeks from now, or years, which is a fun thing about the internet. So yeah, if you already have your copy, if you already have a copy of the new edition of Geekomancy, or you've ordered a paperback, heads up that you can currently pre-order Celebromancy in ebook, and you can. I'm just gonna confirm this, right? You can pre-order. Oh, it's because it's on audio. You should be able to pre-order Attack the Geek in ebook, because I submitted that to be available. That may not have shown up just yet. That's very strange. Set up time delay emails to yourself. Yeah, right. It's not a bad way of doing reminders. Like almost all my reminders I put into my calendar, but whatever works for you, right? All right. So there are a goodly number of people in the stream for streams because my channel is relatively new and I don't have a ton of my numbers are not as high as some streamers. It is what it is. Every single one of you is awesome, and I'm glad you're here. But because it's a small number of people who are in the stream, many of you may already have your copy of Geekomancy. If you don't already have a copy of Geekomancy in this new edition, in ebook, just I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people, like, is it really, if you have one or more viewer, you're in the top 1% of streams? That is absolutely wild. That is a sharper drop off than I would have thought. But I mean, I have no reason to distrust that data point, that hypersaturation. Wow. So yeah, all of you are wonderful. If you don't already have a copy of Geekomancy and you would like it, and you're here live because YouTube, like, I may do another giveaway that's not live on the stream because I can do that now. I published the book. I can do giveaways whenever I want. I don't have to ask anybody else. It's just me. I say, hey, Mike, I should give a book away. And I go, yes, I should. I don't need to talk to myself this way. I normally don't. So yeah, if you want a copy, why don't you go ahead and type D20 in the chat. And I will give it a couple of minutes and then we'll see. And if everybody has a copy or whatever, then I maybe do a giveaway anywhere else because I can just do giveaways when I want. Yeah, okay, you checked. Sort by channels by viewers, and how many pages before you got to the first channel with a viewer and it was wild. Okay, yeah, that method sounds solid to me. Yeah, there was somebody on, I think, Twitter a year since I started streaming. This is when I saw this, so it was less than a year ago. Somebody said, like, hey, if you've got, you never get more than 12 viewers. You consistently have 12 viewers. Think about being like, if 12 people came over to your house every week to hang out and play board games or hang out and chat with you while you played a video game, that's a lot of people in terms of like in-person socialization. If 5 people came over to my house for, I'm not going to do, a bookstore. I'm not going to do an event at a bookstore because pandemic or, whatever, or I just want to have people over to celebrate having a new book out, and 5 people came over, I'd feel great. Small, hanging out with a group of like 4 to 6 or 7 other people is like a great sweet spot for me, socialization wise, because it's a small enough number that you can kind of be socially engaged with basically everybody, even if not everyone all at the same time all the time, versus like, a party at somebody's house with 30 people where you end up really only chatting with like 5 to 7 people depending. Anyway, so that's that. And probably Sean from Skiffy and Fanty shouted out the giveaway. So thank you, Sean. Just checking the various things to see if anything has come up in the world. So yeah, if you just got here, I'm giving away a ebook copy of Geekomancy. If you would like to be entered to win it, just type D20 into the chat like this. And I will draw from the people who did so. Yeah, like if we looked at, if we look at, the top 50 streamers, right? The percentage of people in the chat who are actively engaged is probably very small versus like an Arvin Eller stream, right? There's 20 to 50 people in the chat, and I would say 75% of the people say something in chat over the course of, at least one thing over the course of, a 4-hour stream, which is very cool. Streaming appeals to me because it's that chance to not just put something out into the world, but to also hear from people. So you type D20 if you want to be entered to win an ebook copy of Geekomancy. If you would like, no pressure for anybody. If you think somebody in your life would enjoy it, then you could enter and win, and I will send you the ebook for you to then pass on to someone if you're so inclined. Yeah, yeah, Arv has done an amazing job of fostering a great community. So like big shout outs to him. A lot of yeah, right, free stuff. A lot, so much of what I understand about how Twitch works and how Twitch can work is because I've been in the Arvin Elrond community, and chatting with Greg as a friend and colleague, and doing speculating stuff together, and like hearing about his experience being on Twitch. So I think Arv is currently streaming, right? Maybe over at GOG at this point, because Arv streams on Tuesdays. Over at GOGCom. Yeah, Pen and Pixels doing Celesta. Yeah, like my just chatting streams tend to have a pretty good, yeah, watching both channels, tend to have a pretty good engagement, because most of the people who are here I know personally, or are here because they know me from Arvin Elrond, which is cool. Because I still get to chat with people. I get to talk about writing with the kids are asleep a lot, and Mighty Mer comes by, and the folks who are here who I know through Arv. Arudnil is here all the time, for which I'm very grateful. And getting to know people more, like Uli, and who, making sure that I'm not forgetting anybody else who has been by today already. Mur was around earlier, and there's probably other people who have been lurking. So y'all are great. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. So yeah, I will give it another minute. If you're last call, if you want to win an ebook copy of Geekomancy for yourself, or to send to a friend who you think might enjoy the series, then you can go ahead and type D20 in the chat, and I will pull from that. Currently, if you enter, you would have a 50% chance of winning, so good chances. And then I think right before I stop, I will like kind of do a recap that is like, here's me just saying what this book is and why you might like it, because then I can ask for someone to clip it, and I can pull the video, or I can download the video and make a little sub chunk to put on YouTube as its own thing, and maybe put on TikTok. Yeah, like if nobody else is wants to enter, most of the people who probably already have the book, then Uli, yeah, I can. What would be convenient for you? If you send me a whisper with an email address that you would like me to send it to, that's great. If you want to figure something else out, then that is totally fine by me. Whatever is easier for you. Digital edition with animated covers. I don't know that I can have animated covers on the ebook editions. Or no, actually, the ebook versions at the stores are not the animated covers, so I want to be clear about that. I may be able to create an ebook version that has the animated cover, but I'm not sure, so I can't promise it. I will try to look into that. I could certainly send you a link to the animated cover file if you didn't want to just download it, but that's not nearly, that's not as easy. Yeah, so it's a question of can I put a video format file in the spot for a cover for an ebook to have it stay an ebook? That's not something I know whether I can do. I think it would be a great idea. I have not seen anyone advertising that they can sell the ebook with the animated cover, and I follow enough people who make and use animated covers that I'd like to think that I would know, but that's no guarantee. There's certainly an option. Okay, great. Ule, I see your whisper, so I will get that out to you shortly after I am done with the stream. Very cool. Thank you for coming by and entering. And for everybody, thank you for being here. Apple can, interesting. Not sure if Apple can do an animated cover. Oh yeah, well of course they can do movies. Okay, so they can build a movie into an ebook file. That's interesting. I wonder if that's something to like. Is that a feature that Apple can offer that nobody else can, that would let them get an advantage in their store? Because if I could say like, hey, you can get the animated cover on your ebook if you buy from Apple, that'd be like great for them, right? That'd be very cool. Welcome back. The kids are asleep. It is 4:50. Meg will be home soon, and I think maybe go out for dinner someplace where we can eat outside or order some food. I like celebrating good things when the good things happen, to not like let them pass without kind of something that helps me lock the good memories in. Doing a stream like this is definitely something that helps. I remember I did a live stream launch thing for maybe Celebromancy. It was just like me talking online, talking on like Google Hangouts with anybody, and that was really fun. DIY with a secondhand Mac Mini and free publishing software. Okay, I mean, yeah, right. My tech skills are not amazing, so it may be harder for me to do, but maybe I can pay somebody else to do it. I know I learned a very tiny amount of HTML, which means that having paid someone to make the ebook file for me, I can crack it open and correct very small things if I need to. But I know that it would be very easy for me to just break the whole thing because I don't know that much HTML. I learned a bit of HTML and a little bit of CSS quite some time ago, but have not kept current with them. So that is that. Again, the cover of Attack the Geek. Oh, this is interesting. It's because it's behind. Let me move that forward. Oh, hey, up. Go. So yeah, here's the cover of Attack the Geek, which is all very cool. Celebrate, right? That's the bit. Yeah. Novella. This cover is so good, I almost didn't want to like use it for the novella. Like, oh, hey, let's just make this into the cover for Hexamancy. But I'm getting a good cover for Hexamancy also, so it's just winning all the time. So that is that. This will be hard to make back into the right size. Okay, I'm glad that I have probably seen it, but I could not recall the whole joke if asked to do so. So yeah, now I'm gonna kind of do the pitch for Geekomancy so that I have it on video to put into various formats. Hi, I'm Michael R. Underwood. I am the author of, where did I even put this book? I'm gonna have to start again. I had the one that's the proof, and that's not as good a version. Okay. Hi everybody, I'm Michael R. Underwood, the author of Geekomancy. This was my debut novel, and it's republished today in paperback and ebook form. This is a kind of fun, action-y urban fantasy book about a world where geekiness, a love of pop culture and science fiction and everything, is its own magic system. So the main character, Ree Reyes, who starts the book as a underemployed barista / coffee shop minion, learns that she can like watch a favorite movie, and then if she's watching The Princess Bride, she can do amazing fencing stuff. Or if she watches The Matrix, she can do bullet time. And so she uses this power working with a mentor who is like a more senior geekomancer to investigate a mystery in her town, and she kind of embraces the life of an urban fantasy heroine out of a sense of responsibility and adventure. And this is the first book in a completed series. So if you're watching this video, you can see Geekomancy, Celebromancy, Attack the Geek. I have covers for 3 of the 4 books. This is 3 novels and a novella. They're very fun. I had a lot of fun writing them. I'm re-releasing them one a month over the course of the summer of 2022, and you can find it in ebook and paperback at basically any bookstore that you use. And there are audio editions available of Geekomancy, Celebromancy, and Attack the Geek from the original publication. And if you read and enjoy these books, then I am very happy, and you can sign up for my newsletter if you want. You can find me at Twitch, at twitch.tv/turbotango. And books enjoyed are enjoyed even more when you can share them with friends, because word of mouth is the #1 best sales tool in all of publishing, is a genuine recommendation from someone you trust. So if you're a reader and you have lots of reader friends and you like these books, tell your friends about them. It would mean a whole lot, and it will help me as a writer keep on writing amazing things for you and for anybody. So thank you so much, and I'm very excited about this book, because this was my debut and now it's back, and I am very excited to have it back in the world. So that's that. Thank you everybody who came by to help me celebrate the re-release of this book. I will figure out when I want to stream other times this week and make sure to put it out on socials. And then this Sunday I'm on a Bag of Giving charity stream. I should have a Bag of Giving. Great, because I co-founded it. I should have a command for it on my channel. So yeah, that's that. I'm gonna look at Twitch to see if we should go raid somebody. All right, so most of you are probably also watching GOGCOM as is, but we can go raid there for anybody who isn't already. And go say hi to R for me. Bye.